a segment with Bishop on air this morning. I want to connect with a fellow reporter out of Chicago, William Kelly. He, of course, has a keen eye on what's going on in the Windy City, and we'll get his reaction to the headlines of Chicago Mayor Johnson blaming the Republicans and Richard Nixon and all the violence, but also the headline that I think I really also want to focus on here is he's going to be a credentialed member of the press in Chicago. So, William Kelly, thanks for taking time with us. Let's get right on into it. Your reaction to Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson yesterday.
Well, it goes from bad to worse. First he blamed racism, of course. That wasn't working even among his black and brown constituents. He demanded reparations. That didn't work. He blamed Lori Lightfoot, which didn't exactly offend me, as you might imagine, but that didn't work. So he yesterday blamed Richard Nixon for 100+ people getting shot on 4th of July weekend in Chicago, Greg. And it's outrageous. It really is, sadly, a real insult to Chicagoans, especially black and brown Chicagoans, who are the ones who are primarily doing the shooting and getting shot. He says that he's not trying to find or even address the real root causes of this violence, Greg.
Well, what do you say about Larry Snelling, though, having said time and again, listen, we got to get these bad actors off the street. They need to be prosecuted. Is that just a direct signal to the state's attorney that, the outgoing state's attorney, because Kim Foxx isn't running again, but the state's attorney's office isn't doing its job?
Well, exactly right. And this is, I guess, the vicious cycle of violent crime in the city of Chicago. The police, they do their job, even with all of the unbelievable restrictions that are being put upon them. They arrest these violent criminals again and again and again and again. And Kim Foxx puts them right back out on the street. The Cook County Sheriff puts them right back out on the street. The morale of the police is obviously getting taking a little bit of a hit in all of this. These violent repeat offenders are not just one-time offenders or some of these violent repeat offenders have been committing the exact same crime 16, 17, 18 times. So it really, you almost, what do you blame it on? I think it was Goethe that said sometimes, instead of looking for some great conspiracy, it might just be incompetence. That might actually be the answer here, Greg.
Well, and somebody on X Live with us this morning, Patrick, says Grok says that since 1931 is when the last Republican controlled the city of Chicago. I can't verify if Grok, artificial intelligence on X, is accurate there, but regardless, it's been generations since Republicans have controlled the city of Chicago.
Right. Yeah, the people who have been the most directly in control of the city of Chicago. You don't need artificial intelligence to tell you this, Greg. They're all Democrats, local and county, and for that matter, for the most part, state. Certainly in the last couple of election cycles, there is no Republican statewide office holder. There are no the Democrats have supermajority in the House and Senate in Springfield. I don't have to tell you that. So for Mayor Johnson to be blaming if I were mayor of the city of Chicago, I wouldn't even waste time blaming anybody. I'd be trying to solve the problem. The guy was AWOL on the 4th of July. Was that Nixon's fault? I don't think so. He was out of town. Did Nixon chase him out of Chicago on the 4th of July? Did Nixon dress him up in a NASCAR suit and make him look like an idiot? The weird thing about it is that I was born and raised on the south side of Chicago, of all places. I love it with all my heart to this day. And, I'm not going anywhere. I'm here. If I were mayor of the city of Chicago and there was a mass shooting on the 4th of July where a mother was shot trying to shield her children from gunfire in her own house, I would have been on the front. I would have been one step behind CPD to that woman's house to personally be there, just to show my sympathy, my support, my ask, uh, for condolences, suggestions. I mean, I wouldn't have. I guarantee you, Greg, I would not have been out of town. And that whole. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm going. This is clearly something that I think all Chicagoans are very upset about. You know, I guess speak for a lot of Chicagoans when I say that this is out of control,
William Kelly.
and we're not seeing the kind of leadership that we need in order to. Yes.
Well, your video dropped just for a moment, but you came back. But I do want to focus now on you getting your credentials back. We've talked about this, you and I, for 2 years, 2.5 years, or something like that.
Can you believe it?
Yeah. Briefly, you had your press credentials revoked after combative questions with former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot, questions about violence, questions about COVID and such. You also went to court to try to get those credentials back. You have the administration change from Lightfoot to Johnson. You go to court. You still didn't have your press credentials at that point. Do you now have your press credentials for the city of Chicago?
I 100% do. And I'm very, very thankful to you and other reporters, local, state, national, right up to Tucker Carlson, who have literally stuck with me every step of the way. How ironic and sad is it that in the city of Chicago, a reporter can get in trouble for asking questions about violent crime, but violent criminals will not get in trouble for committing violent crime? This is what we're dealing with here, Greg. It is. I think future historians will look back on this and I mean, uh, with utter, baffled by this situation that we're currently going through in the city of Chicago. Just to be clear, had an official city of Chicago media credential for a good decade before Lightfoot ever even became mayor. And checked the video. Thank God everything I've ever done is on video. Otherwise, nobody would ever believe it. Every I was asking Ram about violent crime in the city of Chicago, and he didn't like it either. I would ask him about shootings, and his security detail would, shove me out of the way like, Chicago linebackers, like Brian Urlacher, in a football game. But that was, I guess, the way it was until Lightfoot, and she not maybe it's because she had never held public office before. She didn't think that she had to answer questions. It also maybe had something to do with that whole weird 2020 BLM, lockdown, looting, almost martial law kind of leadership style that she had. She didn't think that report that let's just call it what it is. She didn't think that a white man should be able to ask her a question. So when I showed up and I was asking questions, not, I wasn't, I was asking her questions as a reporter, and by the way, I was asking her questions that people were asking me to ask her, black, brown, white, gay, straight. I mean, Chicagoans from across the board were saying, could you please ask Lori Lightfoot about the mass shooting in front of, Holy Name Cathedral last weekend? Yeah, and so I would ask her these questions, and at first I think she thought it was helping her to yell at the white man reporter. But I think as time went on, she realized it wasn't helping her. It was making her look bad. So she, revoked my media credential. 2 years in court, Greg. And I finally got a letter from the lawyers, the city of Chicago lawyers, stating that if I would sign a universal release, releasing Mayor Lightfoot, the city of Chicago, her security, I don't know who, Richard Nixon, release everyone from any claims that they would give me back my media credential. Well, of course, I'm not going to sign a release. I want those emails from Lightfoot. I want to know who made that decision and why, and what led up to that. So I said I wasn't going to sign the release, and I said it was against again, a further attack on my First Amendment rights, and that I was going to sue them. And sure enough, I got a phone call. Kelly, your media credentials are ready. Come on by, pick them up. So I'm back.
So they were looking to essentially have you give them immunity for
Exactly.
for 2 years worth of blocking your First Amendment right of not just free speech but also freedom of the press.
Yes, exactly right. And I want all, and I wasn't going to just sign away my my rights because first of all, I want to know. I want those emails from Lightfoot. I want I'm still, my lawyers are still telling me that I should sue Lightfoot personally, and I'm very seriously considering doing it. But the good news for us as reporters, Greg, is I do have my media credential back. And if you choose to come to Chicago for the DNC, which is coming up, you can obviously use Citizen Kelly Tower here as your home base to do your live reports. We have a great, live shot of Michigan Avenue. There's guaranteed to be protests. I've already been in contact with I think 17 different protest groups that are coming to Chicago who want to do interviews with me. So these are people who understand freedom of speech. At least we have that much in common. I wanna hear what they have to say. I want to hear their side of the story, Greg.
Well, William Kelly, I will obviously talk more about all of that off line here, but greatly appreciate you taking time with us. We'll definitely connect again in the near future, and be safe out there. All right.
God bless you, Greg. Thank you.
It is Bishop on Air, special segment here with William Kelly. Thank you so much for taking the time and being part of the program. As always, appreciate you guys. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Don't forget to go over to America's Talking Network and subscribe there, because the daily program, Illinois in Focus Daily, will only be at America's Talking Network. I got to get out of here, guys. Have a great day.